Hello, everyone. I'm Surya Golagani, Director Marketing here at DataGaps, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Before we get started, we have a couple of quick housekeeping comments. First, we have muted all mics so that there are no unintended distractions. Next, the chat room is open so you can interact with us through the chat. And finally, at the end of the session, we'll open it up for Q&A. So today in this webinar, we'll be introducing this new platform, DataGaps DataOps Suite, which will help in automating end-to-end data validation, migration testing. This takes the place of our client-server implementations of ETL Validator, which will still be enhanced and supported, or our client-server customers can migrate to the new platform absolutely free of charge. So let me make a few introductions here. Today on the panel, we have Mr. Naren Elemental, founder and CEO of DataGaps, David Small, VP Sales and Marketing here at DataGaps. Moving to our agenda of the day. Can we get the agenda screen, please?
Yeah, moving there. Thank you.
So here we'll talk about DataGaps. It's quick focus, and Naren will be explaining a couple of things around this. Then we will have Dave will say a few words about DataGaps and our mission, along with the importance of data validation and the need of data automation testing for data movement and migration. Then we will move into DataGaps DataOps Suite overview. We will demonstrate some of the use cases important to our customers, followed by a Q&A session. So let me introduce Mr. Naren. He co-founded the company around 12 years ago when he left Oracle to start DataGaps. Naren has 20 plus years of experience working in the ETL analytics and DW arena, where he often is called upon for his expertise in this field. So Naren.
Hi everyone. Thanks for the intro, Surya.
So Naren, as DataGaps has been around for like 12 years now, and what was the original vision of the company and how has it changed in these 12 years?
Yeah. So when we one of the core reason for launching DataGaps is that prior to joining starting DataGaps, I was part of an Oracle team that was managing one of the largest data warehouse, Oracle-based data warehouse at that time. Every time we pushed any changes to our data pipeline or analytics, we would encounter issues that are only manifested in the analytics platform found by the business users in production, which is very embarrassing from a IT standpoint, IT management standpoint. It's not just that, it's also more costly to fix the data once it's manifested in production environment in the analytics platform, and the reputation damage as well as the loss in trust is also not repairable. So the root cause we found was that there was no the testing was manual and error prone, and we could only test a handful of records, not the complete data set. And we thought there should be a better way to do this kind of testing, which is data centric and data focused on data itself. So and then we should be able to identify the issues further downstream, whether it's in the development and test environment itself or in the source system itself before it makes it to the production. So that's when that was the main driver for for the beginning of DataGaps, and over the years we have come up with a lot of innovative approaches to automate the data testing. In some ways, we pioneered this field in as a company, and data analytics testing together. And then every week we are improving as the week goes by over this time.
Very interesting. So where do you see the company going in the next couple of years down the line from here?
Yeah, good question. So we over this time we have also seen a lot of changes in the data in general, data has become a key ingredient of success for any company. The digital transformations that the companies are undergoing today, and the migration to the cloud, and the big data and the advances in the data analytics and AI/ML are actually made a lot of this area very critical. The testing and validation of the data is a very critical aspect of any company that cannot be ignored anymore. So what we are we are actually focusing on making sure that the whatever the test strategies, we minimize the code, going for low code or no code strategies, and use of more AI and ML in our products. We're very excited about the observability, data validation and observability aspects that we added recently to our platform, and there we are seeing a lot of adoption. And we are also we're going to focus more and more on this on the observability, data observability and report observability, analytics observability in the future.
Great to know all that. Thanks, Mary. Thank you so much for sharing these thoughts with us. So now I'll hand this over to Mr. Dave.
Hey, thank you, Celia. I'd like to start off by just illustrating a couple of bad decisions or events that happen based upon bad data. We see these all throughout history, and a more modern example of that is the Mars rover. Back in 1999 was launched and headed to Mars and to land on Mars. And what they found was that that NASA was using English measurements, and their contractor was using metric measurements. And the results of that meant that the orbiter actually burned up in Martian atmosphere because the projections were wrong in terms of how to enter that atmosphere. It was a $193 million mistake, a simple data problem caused by using two different metrics really caused that problem, and a big egg on the face in terms of NASA and that contractor. Another example of what bad data can do to you, and this is in the educational arena. There's a elementary school in Dallas, Texas called Mount Auburn, and what they found, or what they had, was one of their individuals had coded the transfer information incorrectly on one of the transfer students. They marked the information wrong in terms of the racial ethnicity of that particular group. So what that did was it dropped that elementary school below meet standard to improvement required, which would have cost them millions of dollars to make those adjustments and do the things that the Texas Board of Education says you have to do in order to meet standard again. Well, fortunately, they found the mistake before they actually had to go in and spend money, but the reputational damage was already done. And there are hundreds and thousands of these types of things happening where organizations think they're making proper decisions, but it's on bad data, and it has reputational damage and monetary damage to them. So how do we work with you, and how do we help prevent some of these things from happening? Well, we focus on that end-to-end validation from the point that data is ingested into your enterprise all the way through to consumption through your data analytics platform. We help validate that the data is coming in properly, it's transformed and moved properly, and then consumed properly. We'll get into more of this in more detail a little bit later. The kinds of things that we're helping people solve and the questions that we're getting as an organization is, how can I make good decisions based upon trustworthy data? Or how do I monitor my data quality as data is flowing in and flowing through my enterprise and ultimately resting within my enterprise? How can I take and create automated tests and reduce the cost of my manual testing and test 100% of the data, not just a subset of the data? So these are all the things that we focus on a daily basis. There's a lot of statistics around what happens in the enterprise when bad data flows through the enterprise. According to Experian, 88% of the American companies' average loss is 12% of the total revenue of that company based upon bad data coming into the enterprise. That is an enormous amount of money in most organizations. What we did is put together a little calculator, and we'll post this in the chat. So if you want to download this, you can change the parameters, put your numbers in. But as an example, if we have 10 feeds that come in to feed our data warehouse, and that comes in on a weekly basis, the average volume is 100,000 feeds per feed, or records per feed, and then 25 columns. In order to look at this, it ends up that there are 1.3 billion data elements that are coming into your enterprise on a yearly basis, some of which can have issues. What we found is that if you find issues early, it is much less expensive to fix them. If you find them late as they land in your data warehouse, a lot of times it's 2, 3, 5 times or even more expensive to fix those. So in this particular example, if you find them early, then it costs you $292,000 to fix those. And that's just an estimate of 1% errors or 0.1% errors. If you find them late, it costs you $1.4 million. So that's what gives life to our philosophy of left shift testing philosophy, where you test and you catch things as early in the cycle as possible. How do we do this? What we've created is a DataOps Suite. DataOps Suite is really geared for that journey of the data up into the time that it's consumed. BI Validator, one of our sister products, helps with the validation at consumption. So DataOps Suite has a number of components. It has data flow, which is really an ETL framework that you could use for ETL processes to help you move information through your enterprise. But more importantly, what it's used for most often is the validation of your ETL processes. It uses an Apache Spark engine or a database engine, depending upon the volumes. We also have in this suite data quality monitoring. So as data comes into the enterprise, data is monitored by data quality rules that you create and execute against the data coming in, or it can monitor your data based upon AI algorithms. And what we do is we learn about the data coming into the enterprise, and we show you anomalies as they begin to occur, or data at rest in your enterprise in the data warehouses. We score that, and we provide you mechanisms to monitor the quality of data that's at rest. The last part of the DataOps Suite is Test Data Manager, where we create synthetic test data based upon your production data. We'll go into a number of popular use cases based upon this technology. So one of the most common ones is the ETL, automating the ETL processing. A lot of organizations do this manually, and it costs a lot of time and effort and money. We help you automate that. And so as data comes into your enterprise from a variety of sources, we help catch the quality of the data, either through our data quality rules or our AI mechanism to do that. As it lands in the enterprise and moves through the enterprise, we test your ETL processes to make sure that the ETL processes are transforming correctly and so on. And then as it moves into the warehouse, we make sure that movement is being done properly. And ultimately, the BI Validator latches in a sister product that connects into this environment and does regression testing and performance testing and GUI to GUI or pixel to pixel comparisons. So that's about the ETL testing and validation. We also do help organizations with cloud data migration testing. And in this particular case, we're using Snowflake as an example, but it could be Databricks, could be a number of other data sources. But a lot of people are moving from on-prem into the cloud. And what we provide them with is the ability to do the initial validation of the migration from the legacy into the new platform. We also help validate the ETL processes because you have your legacy ETL process sending information to your legacy data warehouse, and then a new ETL process creating the Snowflake instances. We validate that these processes are functioning in the same fashion. And then finally, the regression testing of the reports. So there's a number of things that we do to help you in the cloud data migration testing. This is sort of a push button, creates a number of test cases based upon the number of tables you're moving and so on. So a very efficient way to help you with data migration testing. Generating test data. So we read your production test data and we take an extract of that. And from there, we apply models and rules against that. We hide your personal identification information, or replace it, I should say. And we keep the correlations between columns and primary keys, foreign keys, all of those kinds of things intact. So it really does mimic your production data. And we generate test data sets, as many records as you would like, in order to feed your test environment. This is becoming more and more important because of the data privacy laws, and also to feed AI models and those kinds of things. So we provide you with that test data generation. Monitoring your data quality, as I mentioned, there's an AI capability. So as data is coming into the enterprise, we learn about that data. Once we learn about that data, we continue to monitor that data. We know the higher level and the low level metrics, the boundaries of that data. And as it comes in, we identify anomalies and indicate or show those to you so you can take appropriate action. The other part of this is the data at rest, monitoring the data at rest. So as you have data sitting in relational tables, data lakes, wherever you might have data sitting, we actually apply data quality rules to that data at the data element level. Those roll up to the table level, roll up to the model level, roll up all the way to the enterprise. So you have an enterprise score or a model score or a table score or an entity score. And if you see that the data quality in your environment is beginning to diminish, we provide you with a very quick and easy means to trace that back to find out what the root cause is of that data quality problem that you may be encountering. And then finally, reconciliation of your production data, key metrics, making sure that things have been moved properly. So as a lot of organizations are taking their on-prem legacy production applications and they're migrating those to the cloud, we help you with that migration process, but we also help you with the reconciliation process. So as data has been bulk moved or moved into this cloud production environment, we help you go back and reconcile that the data has been moved properly, that if it's invoices, that all the invoices have been moved, if it's payroll, all the payroll information, everything's been moved properly. We do that, help you with that reconciliation. So that's a lot about what we do, what we think about every day. I'd like to turn this over to Noreen, and Noreen will do the demonstration, but I think first probably best to have Noreen describe what the architecture is for DataOps Suite.
Thanks, Dave. So as you can see from the slide, basically the DataOps Suite is a web-based tool. It runs on Apache Spark as the engine backend. There is two components in the server side. There one is a server and the other one is the engine. And then the server is primarily responsible for the orchestration services, like from the front end, test case management, creation of test cases, orchestrating the test execution, and displaying the test results and things like that. The engine is the one that does the heavy lifting. In this case, we use Apache Spark as the primary engine for doing in-memory data comparison, data validation, and we also support database as an engine for ELT scenarios. So for ETL scenarios, we typically recommend Apache Spark, and then for ELT scenarios, we use Database Engine. For the ETL scenarios where you use Apache Spark, you can deploy the Spark engine in EMR or Databricks or Google Dataproc, or it can also have a standalone Spark. For database engine, we support Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server, and Snowflake, and as well as Redshift, and we are adding more and more here. And then for the finally the repository database, so we support Postgres or Oracle. And the Postgres database comes with the tool, and it's the most commonly used one. And then since this platform is built using REST API, and and we have a CLI tool, it can be integrated with any other third-party software as well very easily. Thanks. So thanks, Dave. So let me share my screen.
So while Naren starts sharing and showing us a demo of the platform, audience, if you have any questions, so you can use the Q&A option in your window to send any of those questions to us.
Okay. So let me minimize. So what you're seeing is the DataOps Suite, the web-based interface, and here so the very first thing would be to probably create your data sources. So we have different support for different data sources available. Let me bring this down. So anything, because we use Apache Spark, which is one of the most popular batch processing engine. We support everything that Apache Spark supports, as well as more. So we added our own connectors on top of Apache Spark, or customized some of them. In case of SQL, for example, SQL Server, fixed width, there were some certain features that are very important, but not supported by Spark. So we have extended the functionality. And we support any type of files, multiple different formats of files, and they can be located in any cloud like S3 or ADLS, or any cloud storage or local. That's the first thing to do. And then we automatically catalog the metadata from all these tools, and then track the changes to your metadata using our catalog tool. Like we automatically track, if a new column has been added, a table got added, modified. So all those changes we track automatically, and we use this throughout the tool. And then, like Dave was mentioning earlier, there are different use cases for which in which you can use this tool. Broadly, you can think of them as data validation at rest, and data validation or data in motion. So one of the key scenario that a lot of our customers want to use the tool is data reconciliation. So data reconciliation on ETL testing or ELT testing. So this is an example of a simple test where I'm reading from the source data, in this case SQL Server, and then I'm transforming the data and then forming what is the expected data set, and then I'm reading the data from the target and comparing these two to validate that the data is as expected in the target. So it's basically it provides options to map your columns, and then as well as it has several built-in transformations, and it does show the needle in the haystack of what identify what type of issues are having. It can be a broad issue, like you have double quotes in one place and then empty string someplace, or it can be a just a couple of handful of records with the actual data differences. So it will identify all of those. You don't have to manually test them, only few records. It'll go through. Our customers are used it to compare billions of records. Not hundreds of millions, billions, or even billions of records. So it's horizontally scalable. So it is it can also automatically scale as needed and come back to the minimum state as needed. So all those auto scalable elasticity is also built into the tool. And that is one use case I wanted to show. And then second one is like as you are ingesting data into your production data pipeline, you may want to, this is the data quality in motion again. So you want to validate that the data you're ingesting is good and according to your data quality requirements before you decide to ingest into your warehouse or your different layers of your data lake. So that is important, because the earlier we identify these issues, the better, so lesser impact on the analytics, like we talked earlier. So this is a simple one where this is again a component-based interface. Like as you can see, we can read data from multiple S3 files here. We are using a SQL transformation to join those two. We are defined data quality rules on top of that, and then data profiling to track the incoming data. And then, for example, in the data quality for that data set, I have a score here which gives me a combined score for this data set. Basically this is my combined score, and I can see I noticed that the duplicate check rule had a problem here. And when I go further look into it further, like I know how many good records, bad records, what are the records which have duplicates, all those are displayed for me. And then now based on this score, I can you can decide to fix this data or get a new version of this data and decide to ingest it further in your data pipeline. So all those capabilities are there. And as well as, like I mentioned, like the profiling automatically does tracks your data that you are ingesting on a daily basis or whatever frequency you are ingesting. And automatically it has observability built into the tool. So let's say one column you're getting traditionally 95% values and 5% nulls, and it is smart enough to know that occasionally you got 50% nulls in your latest data set. It will know that, and then it will alert you also. So all those capabilities are available in the tool with just with drag and drop capability. And then this is primarily from a data quality in motion, and then we have data quality at rest. So here, what we have is a data quality score that is a combined score across your enterprise. And what does this score one number mean? Like you can drill down and see the score, how the score has been computed. Like it's coming from all my enterprise data models. Like in this case, I know that I see that, and I also see a trend of my data quality score over a period of time, as well as my data quality score by data quality dimension here. So when I look at these scores, like I can easily point and notice, you can notice that the production model is actually not performing below my expectation. So I can click on this, and then I can navigate to the particular table which has a lower score, which is causing the problem. And then I can see that this product model ID is the one that has a rule that is causing my score to come down overall. So I can see this is again another type of duplicate check rule, but I can see the reason why the duplicates are appearing, and then I can go here and modify and add additional rules. There are a bunch of different rules that we support. Several differential integrity rules, domain check rule, difference data check rules, attribute rules, which is like a group of rules. So all of these are supported. We'll go deep dive into this in our future webinars. But so different types of rules are available and built in the tool that you can use to configure. And on top of that, like once we define these rules, another aspect is these are all like static predefined rules, but there is also data observability capabilities here. Like for example, if I want to go and see this one based on what this is this uses an AI-based algorithms to automatically detect anomalies in your data. So, for example, if I look at this one, so it uses the historical data that is coming in and automatically predicts what are the expected ranges, and then if the actual values do not fall into the range, then it will identify as an anomaly. So this is very useful. For one example is like one of our customer has inventory data coming in from several locations, and they want to make sure that if this inventory data is based on the historical values, does it make sense or for that particular location, or it is that an anomaly. So they've been using it successfully for more than a year here on this one. So that is basically data quality at rest and data quality in motion. I covered those two aspects. So, and then the last one I want to show is the test data management capability. Here we have we again use AI to automatically detect your entities and data types. For example, like it will automatically use AI to detect if your first name or last name. It will identify the email and all those columns, and then the entities, and then you can also specify some sample data, like either it can read the sample data from your, like for example, production, and automatically based on the entity types it identifies, it will mask that PII fields. And then when based on the sample data, what you can do is you can generate synthetic data. For example, like or anything categorical, numerical, like you can automatically, it will use the correlations and the sample data to identify and generate the data that is very realistic looking. Like for example, let's say you have age and education status. So based on that, it will automatically identify the correlation between those two, and then it will generate data that is more meaningful for consumption. So, and then last but not least, there is a concept of pipelines. So pipeline is a way of grouping your tasks, like whether you want to launch your EMR cluster or Databricks cluster, and then run your test data flows, or your test cases, or your data quality checks. All of these you can run them with dependencies, and then terminate the cluster automatically. So you don't even have to go outside of this tool to manage your clusters. You can do it directly from this tool. So yeah, that is a very high level preview of the tool. Like I said earlier, I will go more deep dive into the tool in the future. Yeah, that's all I wanted to show at this point.
Great. That was awesome. Thank you so much for that. So there are a couple of questions from the audience that we want to look at. So one is around data volumes is what we see.
Let me go to the question. Yeah. So the data volumes, basically we are able to handle hundreds of millions or billions of records. So that is one of our strengths. And because we integrate with data EMR Spark clusters such as EMR or Databricks, we are able to automatically scale on need, and then launch the cluster on demand, and then run the loads, and even using spot instances, for example, and then terminate terminate the clusters when it's done. So we've been able to compare like billions of records, more than 1 billion records in our benchmarks with 10-node cluster in less than an hour. So data volumes is not going to be a problem with this tool.
Okay. So there is another thing. As we migrate data to different architectures and databases, what do we have to do with DataOps Suite to connect to those architectures?
That's a good question too. So as I was showing earlier, like we have connectors to pretty much any data source, and then We also have something called a code component where we support Python and Scala as part of this tool itself. So anything Spark supports, or even anything that you can connect using Python can be used as a data source. So it is just a matter of switching the connector to your new data source and validating and comparing against your old data source to make sure that the data has moved successfully into your new, migrated into your new platform. And same thing on the analytics side, we have ability to validate that your reports have been migrated successfully. So that is part of the BA Validator tool.
Okay, great. I think so. What are the upcoming features releases that we are planning around this?
Yeah, so in the upcoming, we are actually adding more and more observability. Like one is, report observability is something that we are adding that, and then second thing is on the data ops itself. The operations observability is another thing we are focusing on. Like let's say an ETL task takes, that typically takes 1 hour to or 10 minutes to run, and then it is taking more than an hour to execute. Then we automatically add observability on top of that to detect those things. And then we are also working on integration with more data governance tools such as Colibra, and that is another effort that's going on. So to automatically identify, integrate the rules that got created in Colibra within our tool, and then automatically sync those also. And then we have additional features like AI-based features that new algorithms that we are incorporating into the tool that will help identify more data quality issues without having to define data quality rules.
Great, thank you so much. So Dave, you may want to answer this. What is the process to do a trial or engage with DataOps Suite?
Yeah, so we get that quite a bit. We typically like to do a discovery call with organizations that have interest in seeing the technology. In those discovery calls, we find that what their requirements are, what the infrastructure, really decide mutually as to whether we're a good fit for their particular organization. From there, we craft a demo that shows them what our capabilities are based on their given test cases. From there, a lot of times it moves into a POC where we help them install, we help them do some use cases. It's typically a 2-week POC. And we meet with people periodically to make sure that they are making progress in the POC and that they're not stuck. From there, we take the findings of the POC, help them present back to their management if they need to. And that's typically what we see as a process that we go through.
Okay, good to know that. Always happy to look at trials before purchasing something. Good. So in continuation to this particular webinar, we have scheduled a couple of more webinars which will give us a deeper dive into each of these modules of DataOps Suite. Dave, if you want to just bring up that slide quickly.
Yeah, can you see my screen at all?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason I'm difficulty.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just placing the link to our upcoming webinars also in the chat window. If anyone is interested in looking at those deep dive modules, you have the links for the webinars in this particular link.
And let me just sort of begin to wrap up a little bit about the key benefits of what we're talking about. So a lot of times when you do manual testing, because of the nature of manual testing and the cost and the time and effort, sometimes people can't do 100% testing or validate 100% of the data that's coming in. We had a client that was bringing in about 500 million rows of data on a periodic basis. And through manual testing, they could do about 10% of that. So they would find issues and such, but they didn't validate the whole thing, and it was taking them several days or weeks to do that testing. With our capability, we reduced that dramatically, and we gave them the ability to test 100% of that data. So that's one of the benefits of using our technology. So it's 100% testing, but it's also cost reduction because they no longer were having to do the manual testing in such a lengthy manner. It also helps you get applications out the door much quicker because you shrink the amount of time it takes to do that validation testing, and then it's also ongoing testing. So anomalies and things can't creep back into your environment. And then, of course, repeatability. So, we can automate these tests. We can schedule these tests. You can fire them from CI/CD, and we integrate with Jenkins and Jira and all those kinds of things. So it's a nice solution to be able to bring into your environment and get creative on how you implement and test 100% of your requirements. With that, Celia, are there any other questions?
That's it, is what I look at. Wow, that went well. So if anyone is interested in looking at the platform or wants to get a demo scheduled for you or your teams, please feel free to reach us at contact@DataGaps. We also have some additional links here in the window, just in case if you want to get in touch with us, or some documentation that we can share with you as well. And thank you all. Thanks again, and see you all later.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. Appreciate you taking some time and your interest in DataGaps. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to spend some time, see if we can help you with your testing needs. Thank you now.
Thank you.